Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching the Pick Six Podcast show. We're talking draft. You should like, subscribe, and comment.
Don't tell
What's
the
up,
people
everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Wednesday, April 27th. If you're listening on audio, if you watch the awkward cold open I had to do on YouTube, it is Tuesday, April 26th, and we are going to do some draft props. Joining us to do so, the legendary ringer writer, Benjamin Solak. Ben, what's up, buddy?
Don't know much about legendary, but I do write the ringer. Thanks for the intro. Appreciate it, man.
I actually like how whoever is in charge of hiring at the ringer is like, look, Kevin Clark, washed, faded, old.
Correct.
Out.
Yep.
We're bringing in Solak and Ruiz. You guys do really good. You guys, I find y'all's in-season writing to be some of the best there is out there.
We have a good time. I've been a long time big fan of not only the people at the ringer, but also of Steven. Like when they asked me in my interview, they were like, hey, like, who do you read? I was like, Steven Ruiz. And then 3 weeks later, they hired him. And I was like, oh, I win. This is me. I have done this. I'm sure that's not the case. But we have a good time with Kev, man. Kevin is a pure, he's a pure takesman at heart, which is good when you're like a big like film guy or betting guy or whatever, like I am, because you get into these rabbit holes, right? You run down, you come up with this like unbelievably bad, absurd take, and Kevin just lets you run with it for as long as you want, which is always very kind of him.
Kevin and I text about NC State, Miami recruiting battles, or he, anyway.
I get his golf bets texts now, and I'm always like, go your guy. I don't watch golf at all, but he knows I gamble, so he'll just send me his golf bets. Like,
he didn't live here. What the hell? Clark, send me your golf bets.
Kev's a big golf guy now.
I know. He's a huge golf guy. Yeah, we text about golf and Miami and NC State ACC stuff, which literally is a very niche, segment. I should point out to everyone in the comments, we were early, so screw you. We're going to talk draft props. Solak and I are so far down all right, on a. If you were like creating, let's say that there's a rabbit hole, right? And you start at the top at the surface level, and that's 1. And 10 is like the core of the earth. How deep are we in this draft prop rabbit hole at this point?
Okay. I almost bet Sam Howell to go in the first round yesterday. So wherever that is, that's gonna be like inner core at the least, right? Yeah, where I was like, a team could really talk themselves into Sam Howell in the first round, which is just a horrible sentence, but also a reality of this draft. I thought because there was less certainty, more chaos in this draft, I was going to bet less, and instead I've just bet more. And I bet more long shots and more like exactas than I ever would in the past, right? All these like long odds plus 500 and whatever. But it's because books are leaving those hanging, implying a degree of certainty in the top guys that hasn't been appropriate for months now, right? Like the certainty in Hutch at number 1 has never been correct. And then it all trickles down from there and being like, who's going at 2? Thibodeau's falling, Hamilton's falling, whatever. Like it's all still up in the air. And so there's a lot of long shots that we just got to hit a couple and we'll be good. But it is a scary sheet to look at when you're like,
I was going through my pendings last night and I was like, oh man, did I really make that bet? All right, let's start with one really quickly. But because I am on the hook for Travon Walker at 1, both financially and professionally. My reputation, and if Ike Ekwonu goes 1, I'm fine with it. It helps my school. It helps. I can survive it monetarily, but I definitely prefer Travon Walker by a long shot. The only thing, and we were talking about this like right before we went live, I just don't want Hutch to go 1.
Yeah.
Like, as long as Hutch doesn't go 1, because I have a ton of Hutch over 1.5. I also have Hutch at 2, 3, 4, and 5, where like it'll be fine if Hutch doesn't go 1. You are an Eagles guy.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson is now the Jaguars coach.
Good coach.
Good coach. I think he's a good coach.
Great coach.
Yeah. The buzz today, and we're talking on Tuesday, April 26th, is that Doug Peterson might have, quote, the juice to make the pick at 1. I don't buy that because I don't think that an owner, even one who, based on Albert Breer's column, where Shad Khan's more involved, more hands-on, I don't believe that an owner would retain a GM and then allow that GM to help hire the coach, and then completely, for lack of a better phrase, cuckold the GM by letting the coach make the number 1 overall pick in the face of what we've been told the GM wants. So to me, it's still Walker. But if the idea that Peterson has the juice is true, it could be Icky at 1, right? Or are you where do you stand on that?
I think if you have to ask/report 48 hours before the draft that the head coach is calling the shots, he's not calling the shots, right? When the head coach is calling the shots, we know from either from a report 3 months ago that's like, team now hiring a general manager envisions a larger role in decision making for their head coach, or we just at this point we know that Ron Rivera calls shots in Washington.
Correct.
When they hired Ron, they didn't really have a GM, and also it's Ron Rivera. He's been around. You know what I mean? Like, John
do you remember when Byron Leftwich wanted the Jaguars job?
Yeah.
And he wanted to bring in his own GM?
Yeah.
And they were like, no.
Yeah. They've told you who the guy is there, right? Correct. And the default should be that draft guys are GMs are the guys calling the shots on draft day, right? Like, that's what we should expect. So you look at a place like the Lions at 2, where there seems to be a split between general manager Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell in regards to who they might take it to, pending who's available. If it's a 50-50 coin flip and I have to call heads or tails, I'm probably going to call the GM side, just because when it comes to draft day, usually that's the guy that's in charge, right? Is the guy that has that role. And so when it pertains to the Jaguars at 1, I very much expect it to be Walker. I would not be surprised if it's Icky, just because that's been the other guy that people have been fighting for in the building, and things can always change. I would be very surprised if it's Hutch, because all of the Hutch buzz over the last couple months has been ownership. And ownership always has that break glass in case of emergency red button. We can just take this thing over.
You own the team. You can do whatever you want.
But for us to have such a clear moment on Monday where everybody was like, Hutch is out, indicates to me that ownership said to general manager and head coach, you guys can make we want Hutch, but we're going to put this ball in your court. And I would be surprised if they took it back.
Yeah. You can't, as an owner, undermine both your GM and your head coach. Like, that doesn't, you fired Urban Meyer after a disaster, the most disastrous hire in the history of NFL football. You retained Trip Baalke, who obviously submarined Urban with the whole punch to kicker story or kick to kicker story. And then you let Baalke hire Doug Peterson, and then you're going to undermine both of them by forcing them to draft a guy that they don't want. No, not even the Jaguars are that dumb.
You're going to be picking. I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
Fair.
But you're going to be picking 1 overall next year if you do it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, is dysfunctional franchises stay dysfunctional. So assuming rational actors is always a little bit scary. You always have to be careful when you're like, the team will do the smart thing in the NFL, because that's not always the case. But in this instance, reading the tea leaves, following the dominoes, it seems to me like Hutch, who was the owner's guy, is off the board. I expect it to be Walker, and if it's not Walker, it's Icky. And I'm certain that if it's not Walker, it's Icky. Yes. That Icky is their guy at tackle, and if it's not Walker, it's a tackle, which is Icky. So those are your 2 left for the Jags, and so some books are still hanging Okwonu at a decent price, but other than that, I'm content to just sit on the Walker money I have now, and if I have Hutch, I'm still okay.
And I would say too that as of Tuesday and on into Wednesday and Thursday, because I think the price is going to go up. You can bet Hutch over at any number. Like, we have a buddy in chat who says that once you have factual information regarding related to the draft, the odds technically become infinity.
Yeah.
Right.
Hutch shouldn't be scared of juice.
Right. Do not be scared of juice. You're like, oh, it's minus 285. I can't bet that. Yes, you can bet that. If you have the financial means and or the credit, you can bet Hutch overs, because he's not going 1. 2, however, a different story. And you and I were dealing about this last night. And no one knows what the Lions are doing. Nor should they, I guess.
Right.
Hutch is the local guy, but you and I agree that doesn't That didn't, like, I don't understand why that's a thing.
That meant a lot more when you didn't have private planes to go pick up players and bring them to Michigan and the internet and other things that, technological advancements that have made locality not as important for NFL players.
Brad Holmes used to work for the St. Louis Rams, and then he worked for the Los Angeles Rams. Like, why does he care about some dude from Michigan? I mean, you're not selling any tickets because he's from Michigan. The question becomes, is it Thibodeau or is it, for me at least, unless there's like some Stingley sauce action at 2, that feels aggressive given the way the Okudah pick is played out, even though it's a different regime. I feel like it's either Tibbs or Hutch at 2.
Yeah.
And I lean Tibbs, and you've heard the same thing I've heard, which is that the Lions like Tibbs.
Mm-hmm.
Holmes has visited him a bunch. And as we talked about previously, Penei Sewell is in their building. He was their first-round pick last year. They like him a lot. They trust him. He has probably given them a recommendation on Kayvon Thibodeau. And I would guess that he's not like, this guy's such a prick. Like,
he and Thibodeau are boys.
Exactly.
And even like beyond the we played on the same team, we knew each other, we're buddies thing. Sewell played a direct opposite Thibodeau, right? He went against Thibodeau in practice, pass protection drills, multiple years, right?
Yep.
And that also matters a little bit because even more than just like the personality thing, NFL teams have a big what's it like when he hits you sort of a thing. It's like you can watch him and scout him, but you want to know
from people who are a guy.
Yeah, you want to know from people against whom he has played what it's like, what it feels like. That's a thing that matters to teams. So I think you have like Hutch, Michigan sort of vibes over here, and the whole he's a big culture fit. Like Dan Campbell, like Hutch could have played at any school, Michigan or otherwise. Dan Campbell would like the way that Hutch acts. He would like the cut of his jibs. You have like that, and then you have Sewell with Thibodeau and kind of the impression that they've got of him and that kind of background info. And even if those cancel out, let's say those are equal on both sides. I'm not sure they are, but sure, making a net neutral. Front office still likes him, right? From what I understand, the front office evaluated the 2 players with film and with analytics and with, benchmarks and with guardrails and with personality, and they prefer Thibodeau. That's the side I'd like to be on because front office makes a pick. Campbell is a important dude in that room. Campbell's a big personality.
He's like the 4th voice at best.
Yeah. But we can't go so far as to say we on the outside have seen a lot of Dan Campbell pressers of him being rowdy and rambunctious and funny, which means he probably makes the pick. That's too much of a mental leap for me. So in my opinion, if Hutch and Thibodeau are there, it's a slight lean to Thibodeau. Okay. I don't know what the updated numbers are because I'm not taking this unless something changes in the next 48 hours. I won't be touching this now. I got on it earlier with Thibodeau, but I'm not going to.
What did you get Thibodeau at 2 at?
I got him at plus 300 or no, plus 600. I got him at plus 600.
Plus 600 is very good. I think it's 2-1 at best right now.
Yeah,
which I agree. I'm not taking Thibodeau 2-1 to go second. You're talking about I need more. I need a better number.
Yeah,
for that. Maybe you could do a Walker Thibodeau exacta.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's probably 5-1 at best.
Yeah, what I would prefer to do if I'm going Walker Thibodeau and building that out is I would prefer to get the 3rd position in there with the Texans and then take a couple of different flyers because we went from the Jags who could do a couple different things, but we think we know what they're going to do, to the Lions who could do one of 2 things, and we're hoping that we've got it right, to the Texans who could do one of 19 things. And so not great. So if you're in a position where you feel like you've got a Walker bet that you like and you want to build out equity on that, I'd rather get a Walker, Thibodeau, blank exacta and put a couple different names in there for the Texans at 3 and see if I can hit on one of those big swings because books have no idea what the Texans are doing. League has no idea what the Texans are doing. You and I have no idea what the Texans are doing.
No one has any friggin' clue what the Texans are doing.
Yeah. This whole recent Derek Stingley thing to me is
stinky.
Suspicious.
It's very
I love it, but suspicious.
All right. So I agree with you. The only actionable thing on number 2 is doing a trifecta and splashing a couple different things with the Texans. I have come around to the idea that at 3, the Texans are going to take Ekwonu if he is there. Because I believe, I've heard Like people in Houston don't know what the Texans are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like, they could go Hutch for sure if he's there. They could take Walker if he's there. All right, let's operate under the assumption that we're going Walker 1, and then we'll figure out. We think it's either Hutch or Thibs at 2. I just think the Texans look at Laremy Tunsil's contract. 2 years left on it. He's 28. They gave up a lot for him, but he's 28. Are they really going to give him some massive extension at the age of 29 or 30? I don't think so, given where their roster is and where the state of things are with that franchise. You could bring in Icky and play him at guard for a year, cut Tunsil after next year, and move Icky to left tackle. And I know that's not fundamentally intelligent from a development standpoint, but I don't think it's crazy to suggest the Texans might think that would work.
My question is, if that, then why not Neal, who has played guard?
Icky played guard too.
When did he play guard?
Icky actually was all conference guard and tackle in the same year.
Okay. I had no idea this was a thing. I've been operating under Icky.
I only know this because I'm an NC State fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Icky's moved all over the place. And I talked to Icky at his pro day, and he said he's like, look, I want to be a left tackle, but I'll play wherever they want me to. I didn't know Neal had played guard. I thought Neal was just right tackle.
No, the thing with Bama is all these guys end up playing multiple positions because every year Bama can just put their best 5 out there in some various iteration, right? So some do to guards, do to center, and it always works because they just have such good players. I didn't know NC State got down like that. We're just moving around our best player, playing him at guard a little bit. But yeah, okay.
It was
4 snaps at left guard in 2020.
There you go. 4 snaps.
Yeah. Or four games. 4 games.
4 games. Yeah. I was like, yeah, surely. Like, surely more than 4 snaps.
Yeah.
I thought you're clowning me with 4 snaps.
Both like I've had Neal at the Texans for a long time, and over the last couple of weeks I've started to change it a little bit more and just like look at different things and whatever. But the Neal and Icky thing both make sense to me in terms of getting yourself flexibility on the Tunsil deal, which is pretty much the only whale deal that they have. Like Brandon Cooks isn't even a whale deal relative to the wide receiver market, so gives you flexibility on the Laremy Tunsil deal, which is nice if you're envisioning a long-term rebuild. If you are expecting to bring in a star rookie quarterback at some point, because that guy's probably not Davis Mills, even though for some reason you're just cool with that this year, then it is nice to have the offensive line solved. You got to remember, Houston has a memory of rookie Deshaun and of second-year Deshaun and him just getting lambasted behind a really bad offensive line. Yeah. They have made a lot of recent early investments in that line, though. Titus Howard, Max Sharping. So I would wonder if they do feel like other positions, corner being that big one, has just really gone by the wayside, has really been neglected, if they want to invest in that as well. But they have 2 first-round picks, so there's movement, yeah.
The thing on the cornerback that I can't get past is that, can you imagine Bill Belichick taking a quarterback 3rd overall?
No, but I also don't I'm very reticent of, because this guy came from the Patriots tree, X, Y, and Z. That always, that to me, that's always something that I am.
It's definitely lazy analysis. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's
terrible job, Brinson. No, but the reason for that is because when guys leave New England, it's often because they want to start doing things
their own way,
a little bit differently, because the Patriot way, like, obviously has its benefits and the culture about it is really good, but the team building aspect of it is not amazing, right? Like, we talk about Belichick missing these first-round picks on wide receivers. A lot of the successful moments in the Belichick era in terms of player valuation and acquiring has been with day 3 guys, right? It's been with, like, we brought in our slot receivers, right? But like our Wes Welkers and our Julian Edelmans, our tight end, right? Rob Gronkowski, with our entire offensive line, and Dante Scarnecchia is constantly churning out 5th-round picks. Their early round draft strategy, if you just look at Patriots like 1st and 2nd round picks, over the Belichick era, it's not amazing.
Lawrence Maroney, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, a little, oh man.
No, I mean, like, there have been a couple guys in the early rounds, like a Dante Hightower, Chandler Jones, who they ended up trading, by the way. But by and large, you're correct.
Yeah, it's right. It's not bad. It's just league. You know what I mean? It's got its hits and it's got its misses.
The first it's hard to draft guys. It's hard to draft, and Belichick has gotten more scrutiny on the draft in recent years because Tom Brady's gone now, and people are like, oh, was this whole 20-year run of incredible championships solely based on a lucky pick in the 6th round in 2000. And so like it's revisionist history, but the reality is you're only going to hit on a certain percentage of your draft picks. No one is hitting 100%. This is why Les Snead is like F them picks, because he knows that you're not going to get a stud in the first round every time.
Yep. It's an uncertain science. And so all of that to say that I always struggle to map Patriot intentions onto ex-Patriots who are now in the draft space until I see what they do and I know what they do, right? Because eventually with the Lions, with Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, we're like, okay, you guys are literally cosplaying the Patriots. Yes.
They took Akuda 3rd.
They did. There you go.
All right. So if you were going to bet anything on the 3rd overall pick, and like, I guess what would you do from a gambling standpoint on the 3rd overall pick at this point? Because I'm not betting Stingley if he's the favorite. I don't think it's crazy if they take Stingley 3rd. I don't think it's crazy if they take Icky 3rd. I don't think it's crazy if they take Neal. I don't think anything is off the table for the Texans. I believe they would love to trade down. They won't find somebody to do it. But I don't. I have Stingley and Sauce Gardner 3rd overall. And I think that's it. But I found myself while doing my final mock that was due several hours ago and is not finished, leaning towards Icky at 3.
Yeah. So right now, if I'm looking off FanDuel, Stingley is the favorite at plus 250. He just recently moved to the favorite at plus 300. A lot of books, and he's still going down. So if you got a piece of Stingley, awesome. Earlier today, you could still get Stingley as just like a straight top 5 pick to be available at like, I think plus 300 when I had it. I'm sure that number is going to be down a little bit now, but that's the sort of thing that I would rather do. And you just get yourself a little bit of protection, assuming maybe some of this hype is unwarranted, especially with the Giants sitting there at 5. And we know the Giants are a corner potential team as well. If Stingley's that high, I will buy opposite and take Gardner at plus 430 right now on FanDuel. Gardner has been the consensus corner one this entire time.
What do you think about those two guys, just from a pure evaluation standpoint? I mean, Stingley obviously has the insane 2019.
Yep.
But then Gardner comes from a school where, and since he's not this P5 powerhouse, but man, their defense is elite. I trust their defense. I trust the way they teach the defense, and he seems his floor is much safer than Stingley's. But Stingley's ceiling is probably higher, right?
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. Right now, by the way, Derek Stingley is plus 170 to be a top 5 pick, which to me is nice if you're not sold on Texas at 3. But
what's really weird, by the way?
What's that?
My buddy Newman just texted me a link to a tweet of yours about Cincinnati.
The Bearcats?
Something about Desmond Ritter. I don't know.
I just wrote about Ritter.
He was like, it popped up. It was like, it was like Ben Solak on Twitter. I was like, what?
Listen,
I was like, I'm Solak live right now.
From a couple years ago, I've really liked a lot of these Cincinnati prospects, and it's excited this year that these guys are coming out. It's been a really good team with good recruits and well coached and yada yada whatever. Stingley versus Sauce. Sitting here with you, Will, in the comfort of my own home, drinking my coffee, I'll tell you, Stingley's a better prospect. Because the peak film was better. And also I have a little bit better proof of concept, right? The thing with Sauce is these press man only corners. And I was a little bit hesitant around JC Horn out of South Carolina last year because of this. They do a really good job denying college receivers line of scrimmage. And when you deny those college receivers, you deny targets. When you deny targets, you deny opportunities for ball production, which doesn't mean you're a bad player. It just means when I go to the film to see how you perform at the catch point, in phase downfield, right? In transition, in a break on a route, things that matter to NFL teams, I don't have as many looks at it as I do usually otherwise, right? Well, that creates uncertainty in the eval. Whereas with a guy like Stingley, who played a much greater variety of coverages against a much greater variety of receiver styles as well, I get a little bit better proof of concept. If I'm picking the best film, if I'm picking like when you're on the field and you're healthy, right? For Stingley and for Sauce. Yeah. So that's me sitting here. If I had my $1 million job of a general manager on the line, I probably wouldn't say it with my chest as much because there's that uncertainty around Stingley coming off of a major foot injury. Liz Frank is nothing to sneeze at. And then also having,
I'd rather draft somebody who tore their ACL than somebody who had a Liz Frank.
Yes, exactly. And so medical staff is a huge part of this, right? Always important to remember that a player's medical concerns is not a spectrum. It is black or white. Right. we always talk about like, oh, kind of like discount the guy around. That works like once we get out of the top 10, top 15 players. But at this area, it's either white, we are comfortable drafting this guy, or black, we are not comfortable drafting this guy, period. And knowing which team falls where is tough, right?
No, it's impossible. You cannot know that like as a media member. The only way you can know that is if you are in the front office of that,
looking at the board and seeing that the name has a big red cross, right? That little red cross, like the health symbol on that, saying we're not like, he's up there, but we're not gonna, he's not for us because our doctors don't think he's gonna make a whole first contract career or whatever. So if I were hanging my job on it, I'd probably, and I knew I had a corner pick in the top 5. I would have had to do a ton of work to feel good about Stingley, and maybe I would, but like without the access and without that process, I don't really know. And so that ceiling floor is a good way of thinking about it. Really, it's kind of the volatility of it. Here right now, I think everything lands heads for both players. Stingley will be the better NFL corner. Just you got to flip a lot more coins for Stingley, and I don't know how that's going to fall.
Man, what a good way of describing that.
Professional media member over here, right?
I know. It's true though. Like I'm like, trust me, Stingley is like, this guy has such a ceiling. But then like, if you were actually forced to make the pick, you're like, no. You know what? I'm actually scared. Give me something.
The thing I always say is we out here, NFL fans, NFL media think that a GM's job is to draft good players, and it's not. We think their job is to build a good team, and it's not. We think their job is to win Super Bowls. It's not. Their number one job, their first responsibility is to keep their job.
Yes.
It's a volatile field. And you may not get a second chance. The first thing on a GM's mind when he wakes up in the morning is, how do I not get fired today? And then everything, like winning Super Bowls, winning games, that helps with that. But also not face planting helps with that. And that's why you get a lot of safe picks.
What mistakes can I dodge today?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. How can I just get through the minefield, cash another check next Friday, and we are good to go, baby.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we will knock out a few more picks here in the top 10 and beyond.
Look, we want to make a movie. Paramount is going to come crashing down. We need hits. I got no cast, no Pacino. Brando. He's a nutcase. Can one thing go right with this picture?
This movie makes my people look like animals, and that ain't gonna happen.
I'm not running.
One of the things that makes this draft so tough, you like how there's like a professional commercial in the middle of our.
Yo, I'm gonna watch that. I haven't seen it happen. That was a good show.
I know, right? So
like Miles Teller.
So people who are watching on YouTube saw the Paramount Plus commercial. People who are listening on the podcast would not have seen it, but go sign up for Paramount Plus. It's a fantastic service, and there's like a making of the Godfather type show that's coming out. Yeah. I'm very intrigued by it. Anywho. When we look at this first round, one of the things that makes it really tough is that there are 8 teams, maybe 9. Is it 8 or 9 teams that have 2 first round picks?
There's really no way of knowing scientifically.
You can't count it. I mean,
Jets, Giants, Eagles, Saints, Texans, Packers. That's 6. Chiefs 7. Call it 8.
Lions.
There you go. There it is. That's on lines. That's 8.
There we go.
Think about it no more, and hopefully there's not a 9th.
I know there could be a third, or there could be a 10th team on the hill. The Jets have 4. The Giants have 5. The Jets also have 10, but the Giants also have 7. It makes it's sort of like being at the turn of a fantasy football draft, because you have to figure out what will the Jets do at 4, knowing that they have 10, and what will the Giants do at 5, knowing that they have 7. Mm-hmm. And in between both of those are 3 absolute wild cards in terms of the Panthers at 6, who are desperate to trade down and will probably be willing to take a massive discount to move down, and the Falcons and the Seahawks, who I feel like no one really knows what those teams
currently employ Marcus Mariota and Drew Lock as their starting quarterbacks. Figuring out what that team's going to do top 10 with teams like that would be such easy quarterback spots in years previous, but in this year, it actually makes it a little bit difficult, right? Our buddy Anthony Amica of Established the Run made the good point of saying that, like, for mock draft scores this year, for like mock draft accuracy, those teams with the 2 picks are really important, especially the ones that are clustered together, because hopefully you can get some player team matches there, right? You can, like, give the Giants Ike Ekwonu, right? Give the Giants Sauce Gardner, and then if you're at 5 or at 7, you're able to get them, and that's helpful. But in terms of figuring out who goes top 5 and who goes, top 10, the Jets being like on the straddle is really helpful, and then the Giants at 5 and 7 being there as well. So you start to feel a little bit better about bets like, Sauce Gardner had top 10 odds like a month ago, which felt great because like he's a legit option for all 4 of those guys. Jermaine Johnson had his over under the edge out of Florida State sitting at 10.5 yesterday when there was this real big push to saying like, hey, the Jets would draft Jermaine Johnson over Kayvon Thibodeau. They draft Jermaine Johnson over Chandler Jones. They draft him over your mother. Like they would draft him over everybody, right? And like having that 10.5 is good because if they do pass on him at 4 and believe they can get him at 10, you still get that 10 in there. So it's kind of like situational things you have to look at. And so, like, what are we positive about? Giants are probably drafting a tackle, right? Like you got to feel like with a decent interior offensive line, with the miss on Andrew Thomas, with no guys kind of behind, right? And Thomas like played better last year, but still like there's uncertainty there. They're gonna take a tackle. Okay, well let's look at Ekwonu's overs and like Evan Neal overs got super steamed. Do we want to buy back? Do we want to take an under and assume that he gets there at 7 if the number gets to that line? Like that's the way you have to talk about it. Is just saying like who does this specific team like? And if I have 2 outs on that player now instead of 1, what does that let me bet with a little bit more confidence?
Yeah. I think the thing about Icky, all right, so the Jets at 4, to me, it comes down to like I think Joe Douglas wants to draft Icky.
You think everybody wants to draft Icky? That's how I'm picking up.
I want to draft Icky. He's great.
I want to draft Icky. Icky's my top.
I want to draft Icky too. He's also like not just a really good prospect. He's like a great person.
Mm-hmm.
He announced this week he's starting a gigantic charity to stop poverty in Charlotte.
Good kid.
Why would the Panthers not draft if Icky is there at 6 and the Panthers don't draft Icky? I promise you there will be a like pitchforks and flaming torches, like a march from everyone from Raleigh is going to jump on the train and take it down to Charlotte and burn down David Tepper's house.
The Panthers haven't taken a lot of NC State kids, have they?
Never in the history of the franchise.
Never taken one.
Not one. They had Terrence Holt on the roster at one point in time, and that's it. It is a source of. Is a very sore subject.
I'm picking up on that. I'm feeling some consternation.
I mean, it's like just draft like if they were to not pass on Icky and then draft Sam Howell in the 3rd round or 4th round or whatever, it would be pandemonium. Anywho. No one cares about NC State and Carolina and the Panthers. The Evan Neal over got so smashed on Monday. I don't know if I want to buy back on it. I think it's like there's some concern about medicals with him that's being not really talked about, but kind of talked about. I know Peter King wrote that 3/4 of the league is fine with him. And then I know somebody who was told that the medicals aren't a concern with Neal. So it does feel like maybe a buyback spot if
it continues to go up. I'm going to look at it at 5.5 right now. I'm not.
It feels like the Jets are kind of tired of Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? If I can get Texans at 3, which is still a potential Neal spot to me.
Yes.
Jets at 4, Giants at 5, and Panthers at 6. If they cannot trade back, at this point, you guys got to take left tackle to get the memes to stop. You got to take a left tackle to stop really so that people stop telling you how many different left tackles you've had starting over the past 10 years, whatever the heck it is. Then I start to feel like, all right, if I can get an under on one of the top 3 tackles with 4 potential tackle outs, yeah, that's a bet I'm willing to make. So that's one that I'm watching. The Charles Cross one right now, the under is massively steamed at -210. Right,
it's -210 now.
-210 at FanDuel on 6.5. Right, that's too much for me. I don't know what other books are right now. But that's one where that's the sort of situation I'd like and I'd be interested in for Neal. I've thought about it with Cross. I just struggle a lot with Cross because he has always been
from an air raid system, and
yeah, I don't like. The thing is, like, film wise, I don't worry about him. Film wise, I think Cross is a better player than Neal. Draft wise and betting wise, yeah. I don't. Neal Neil's big, and being big solves a lot of problems. And he's got good technique, and he's done work. It's not like he's just a big, but being big solves a lot of problems for you. He's not super flexible. He likes to bend at the waist. He doesn't recover very well, and like that's the difference between like a Mekhi Becton, who when he played was so good, to like an Orlando Brown, who's good, and being huge is very helpful, but also they'll be like 3rd and 10, and that edge knows you can just blow right by him as long as he lines up wide and goes. And so I don't rank Neil where I rank Icky and Cross.
The cross under now is under 7.5 minus 280.
Where's that?
This is at Caesars.
We see now FanDuel has under 6.5 minus 210.
I mean, should I be betting under? I gotta look and see what my local.
Yeah,
it was 147, 7.5 yesterday. What is happening here?
Yeah, Charles Cross under 6.5 minus 140 on DraftKings. So don't take the FanDuel price. Is the moral of the story. Either take 6.5.
Oh, they pulled Cross off the board here. Wow.
Yeah. Under.
I mean, do you think the Giants would just straight up take Cross at 5 ahead of? Let's say Icky's off the.
Right.
I mean, you like Icky better than Cross, right?
Yeah. Icky, Cross, space, Neil.
Okay. So if Icky's gone, do the Giants just take Cross at 5? Because the Giants, it's a weird thing for the Giants mentally because you can't, like, you have to think the Panthers are going to take an offensive lineman. But if you have like Stingley there and you love Stingley, you have to assume that the Panthers will be willing to trade out if like the Seahawks wanted to come up and get Stingley or the Jets wanted to come up and get JMO or whatever. So but you can't if you like Cross that much more than Neil, you cannot let the Panthers have access to both if you think they're going to take the best offensive lineman.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking about, right? Like it depends on what your delta is between Cross and Neil.
Yeah.
As if you're fine, then there's no harm, no foul of letting the Panthers have both because they can't take both.
If you're fine with either one of them, then you take the best player, the other player you want at 7.
And that's when you want, and this is a big part of draft calculus, betting the drafted stuff is then you want the 7.5 at Caesars, even at the minus 280 juice, because you're getting the protection on that pick, right? You're getting the extra out is what I was talking about with teams with multiple first round picks. Mike Garofalo reported that the Giants are not a team with medical concerns on Neil. He said that he was asked, I can't remember if it was Good Morning Football or if it was just like a talking head for NFL, but he was asked like, all right, no Icky Ekwonu, he's off the board, Cross or Neil. And he said that he thought the Giants would take Neil over Cross. So that leads me to I'm not super confident on that Cross number because of that. And that's what the main thing that like, for me, like I like Cross better, but Cross this entire time has been tackle 3. Same thing with like Stingley's always been corner 2 under Sauce. And like last like week, we've seen this push. And to me, that reflects reality in the sense that the consensus rankings are never as consensus as we think they are.
Right.
But usually that pendulum swings too far. And it's like, well, Cross might be ranked higher than Neil. No, I think still more teams in the league like Neil than they like Cross. It's just more teams like Cross than we originally thought like 3 weeks ago. Right. And so figuring out that balance is tough. I've taken very few bets on the tackle market. I talked about this on the Ringer Gambling Show last week. Corner, I think I've got figured out pretty decently.
Great review.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go team. Corner, I think I've got figured out pretty nicely. Wide receiver, I think I've got figured out pretty nicely. Quarterback, in terms of the position markets. Tackle, I'm all over the place. Every team that could need a tackle could like all 3. And so that's generally for me, like stay away unless I get a line that hangs.
I think that's a good call because you're going to have teams that like Cross more. You're going to have teams that love Icky. You're going to have teams that think Icky's a guard. You're going to have teams that want to put Neil at right tackle. You're going to have teams that have like rule out Neil because of medicals. I mean, like, there's all different variables that play into that market that makes it tough. You mentioned the wide receiver market and having it figured out. So by all means. No, I mean, like, are you in the 5-figure JMO club where if JMO goes top 5, you're buying a yacht and moving to an island?
I'm not in the 5-figure club for anything. I ain't got that sort of gumption yet. But I'm definitely in the JMO club in the sense that the line available was really good back in the day, back in the before times. So top 10 JMO, a first receiver JMO, and a top 5 JMO. All of these things would be delightful to see. Just one of the 3, honestly, would be great if we can get one of those, which I still think is very possible. The idea of some of these teams who are definitely multiple years away Panthers trading out of 6 for a team that really
wants so much sense.
Yeah, for a team that really wants Wilson, plus like Falcons at 8, who aren't going to be winning anything this year.
Do you think Wilson or Williams?
Williams, excuse me.
Sorry,
Williams. So right, Falcons at 8 for a team that's multiple years away. Seahawks at 9 for a team that's multiple years away. In the event that we have a Metcalf move, like all of these are potential outs for Williams in the top 10. Also the Jets, who we know like the receivers. I don't think the Jets have Williams ranked above Garrett Wilson and Drake London, but you don't know who's going to go beforehand. You don't know if they feel like there's going to be a wide receiver run. And so Williams top 10 is still possible. It's plus 175, whereas Drake London is plus 250 right now. Both of those to me are good bets. They're reasonable bets. Drake London is probably a little bit better at the current price. Excuse me. That's all for first receiver. I apologize. Man, DraftKings moved around all their props on me, and now I keep looking at the wrong things. Okay, top 10. Here we are. Garrett Wilson minus 175, Jameson minus 125, Drake London plus 125. Yeah, at that point, the only thing I like there is Garrett Wilson, just because Wilson, I think, is near lock to go top 10 at this point.
Would you? So we have at Caesars, Jameson Williams under 11.5 minus 130. That's a bet, right?
Yes, I would say so.
Too.
Yeah.
So too. That's
11 is the freaking Vikings are 12. Oh, it's Washington. Yes. Washington is a nice hook to have there as well.
I've seen JP Finley talk about this a lot. The Commanders, or whatever the hell we want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll go back to the original name once Elon Musk takes over Twitter?
I think we'll stay. But you thinking Commanders for Drake London?
JP Finley's been saying they kind of need a cornerback more than they need a wide receiver, and I think they do. But then, as Josh Norris has pointed out, and Josh is, there's no one, the only person better than me at nailing Marty Herney / Ron Rivera picks is Josh Norris. And he's pointed out correctly that Marty and Ron only goes to pro days away from like the near vicinity of his stadium if they're trying to draft somebody. And they went to Ohio State wide receiver pro days.
Yeah.
So that is a thing that is probably for real. But I just sort of wonder if their need is their need wide receiver as much as it is on the defensive side of the ball?
I do think that wide receiver is an important need. McLaurin's going to be coming to the end of his contract. Paying wide receivers is a lot. It'd be nice to have a little bit of insurance, especially if McLaurin decides to make it difficult because he doesn't want to stay in Washington, which This guy's had Alex Smith and Taylor Heineke throwing him the ball the entire time. I would not fault him for really wanting to get out of Washington when his contract expires. Now it's Carson Wentz. The biggest need for the Washington football team, Washington Commanders, is quarterback. We don't talk about it, but it is. And the trade of a second and a third round pick should not be enough, should not be nearly enough, especially on an expiring deal. You got to remember with Carson Wentz, to move them off of quarterback. So to be quarterback is still a potential, and I would love if the Malik Willis line could go and to incorporate 11. Right now it kind of sits around like I think 10.5. I've seen a couple of 11s get with really bad use.
If you saw a 12.5 over under Malik Willis, you would take the under.
Yeah.
You think he goes to Washington, don't you?
I think there are 3 teams between 8 and 11 that he can go to, and 10 of the Jets is not one of them.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to believe in the NFL not overdrafting this quarterback class. That'd be delightful.
They won't do it.
Right, exactly. What I say at the top, you cannot assume rational actors in the NFL. Bad decision. We know that the single best thing in the world to have in your NFL franchise is a quarterback on a rookie contract. Jason Fitzgerald of Over the Cap tweeted today, right? Like a graph of like what positions you should draft. Like, it's like dots on a scatter plot, nerd things. But quarterback's in its own quadrant in terms of the value you get from not paying that guy big money while he's also starting caliber. It is still, even with the changes to how first round picks are played in the most recent CBA, astronomical relative to the other positions.
It's how your guy, Doug Peterson, and your Philadelphia Eagles won a Super Bowl.
Right. It's just because you had money to spend. And so if this is an NFL in which movement is constant, if this is an NFL in which players are constantly moving around, quarterbacks are constantly moving around, which drives up the trade prices for quarterbacks and the contracts, right? We saw the Deshaun Watson deal. That if you have a guy who you think has an outside shot, and Malik Willis is an outside shot of being a really, really good quarterback in the league, taking him, even if you are less confident in his evaluation than Jermaine Johnson's or Drake London's or whatever, is warranted. Because if he hits, it helps your team more than if the other guy hits. Correct. Drake London hits, you have a wide receiver 1. Cool. So I got a wide receiver 1.
You have Terry McLaurin.
That guy's got a wide receiver 1. Everybody got a wide receiver 1. You quarterback hits, rookie contract. Now we're cooking with gas. And so I don't subscribe to the belief that the first quarterback pick will be the Steelers at 20. I would be surprised if we get past
15, 16.
Earlier than that. I'm trying to think of who might trade down. I think the Vikings want to stay, but like 13, right? Texans second pick. Ravens even. The Ravens like to trade up, but yeah, like let's call it.
Are you saying like a swap out for the?
Yeah. I think I'd be surprised if we get through the top half of the first round without a quarterback pick.
Well, and the other thing too is that, like, do you remember the time when the Bears traded multiple picks to move up one spot and draft Mitchell Trubisky?
Yeah, I seem to recall that.
Like, NFL teams do stupid stuff for quarterbacks. They're like, it's quarterbacks are a thirst trap. So quarterbacks in the draft are a thirst trap for NFL teams and GMs.
Yeah, but yeah, right now Malik Willis at 12.5 is a line that I intend to take, and I have already taken Malik Willis lines. And so I have to be a little bit careful with continuing to take Malik Willis lines. But I was telling, I mean, personally, I would lean over on Malik Willis just because, but I do agree, like my buddy Pete Prisco, who's gotten dragged for Malik Willis takes this week, deservedly so. Although he claims he got edited by somebody. Anyway, Pete's like, I wouldn't draft any of these quarterbacks in the first round, but people in the league keep telling me 2 of them are going to the top 10, which is probably not happening now, but not that insane. I think that every opinion we have about the quarterback class matters until the moment the clock starts on pick 1. And then at that moment, it becomes so itchy, right? It's the word where you're just sitting there and you're the Saints with the 16th pick and you have the extra ammo for the trade up with 20. And you are just thinking to yourself, we have a round 1 on Willis. We have a round 1 on Desmond Ridder. And then the 10th pick goes and the 11th pick goes. And you're sitting there thinking, if he's good, we're the dumbest people in the world. What mistakes can I avoid that will not get me fired? Which the Saints are a bad example because Mickey Loomis will never get fired.
And but Mickey Loomis is making the picks anyway. He's like doing Pelicans work.
So it's
the first draft I ever covered for CBS. They sent me to New York in 2011. And as a, somebody who grew up as a Panthers fan, Panthers had no one overall pick, Cam Newton. But then, like, you look at obviously this is sort of the draft we all look back on as just pure insanity in terms of where quarterbacks were taken. But I remember sitting in Radio City Music Hall and it's like Ponder, Locker, Gabbard. And it was like, what the hell is happening? And Kevin Cobb may have been traded for on that same night, I believe.
Eagles to the Cardinals. Yep.
Yeah. Like the Cardinals were like, well, we didn't get Jake Locker or Blaine Gabbert. I guess we'll just trade for Kevin Cobb. Like teams do irrational things when it comes to quarterbacks. Okay.
The one other thing I would say on the quarterback market right now is that Malik Wilson minus 190 be the first quarterback taken. And then Kenny Pickett at plus 170. And then Desmond Ridder at plus 1,000. Kenny Pickett is not going to be the first quarterback taken.
No.
It is a ludicrous line. The only way it happens is if he goes to the Panthers at 6. And the guy who you said picks the Panthers, while Josh Norris says it's not happening. And I agree.
I think the Panthers are not taking a quarterback unless they trade down.
And so, to me, minus 190 and plus 1,000 is as close to, a direct ARB as you're going to get on draft night. There's risk. I'm not going to tell you it is. But I have a lot of Ridder quarterback one when it was like plus 2,000, plus 2,500.
Yeah, it's 25 to 1 Ridder.
Yeah. And I have a lot of Malik first quarterback taken. We've had multiple reports that like every team in the league has a first round grade on Ridder. I don't know why plus 1,000 is just sitting there, but it is. And to me, it's not likely to happen. But take that and take Malik, and to me, you're about as safe as you can get on draft night.
I like that. That's a good call. Someone in the look, we got some celebrities showing up in the chat here. Vegas Refund says talking QBs. Yes, we are talking QBs. VR. Somebody wants to know, Solak, where is your cheese? Oh, I forgot we were supposed to talk cheese on this pod.
Cheese downstairs. I'll be honest, I had some cheese for breakfast this morning. As well. My whole Lenten fast right before Easter is all meat and all dairy. That's like prescribed by the church. So I haven't had cheese for a long time. So I've had cheese. I've got a lot of cheese.
You did a Lent cheese fast?
Yeah. So in the Orthodox Church, the Lenten fast is no meat, no dairy the whole time. Yeah, which is tough.
That's tough.
So all that to say is that right now my cheese drawer, the cup runneth over, if you will. I got a lot of cheese downstairs, and thank goodness for that.
What's you're Trent Baalke. No offense. You have the number 1 overall pick. It's a cheese draft. Where are you going?
Like feta, but feta doesn't count because feta's not like feta's
like a vegetable.
Yeah, exactly. Feta is like whatever. The correct take would be brie. Brie is the best.
Brie is the best.
It is versatile. It can be added to some of things. It can be eaten separately. Brie cheese is delightful.
Brie cheese is like melty, but also like it's spreadable.
Right. No, exactly. Good on sandwiches. Unique flavor. Right. You never eat brie. And you're like, I wonder what that is. Like brie cheese goes hard. Gouda's up there. Obviously, very safe bet. Right now, the best cheese is the Trader Joe's St. Andre cheese. All right, which in my Trader Joe's is directly bottom right corner. Don't know where it is in your Trader Joe's.
I'm not a big Trader Joe. I'm a Fresh Market guy.
I'm not a big Trader Joe's guy either. But the thing is, my
Fresh
wife
Market
decides.
Fresh. Yeah. Do you guys you probably don't even know what a Fresh Market is?
Fresh Market.
The Fresh Market is like is high end grocery shopping.
American chain of supermarkets based in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yes, it's only like North Carolina based. Their cheese selection, Ben, it has like it wraps around a corner.
Mm-hmm.
It is a entire like elite cheese selection. I got some I sent a picture of it. I got some unbelievable like cars the car crackers.
Yeah.
I got some cars and I got some elite brie the other day, and man, it's fantastic.
Yeah. The producer's asking how I'm not a Wegmans person. I am. I don't live in Eastern PA anymore, but Eastern PA, baby, Wegmans is the move.
Oh yeah, not as correct. There is a Wegmans. So the Wegmans is right by the Trader Joe's in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
I've went in the Wegmans once, and I'm like incredibly intimidated. It is enormous.
Yeah, it is quite something. But back in the day in high school, cross country meets, we would end a meet and we would go to Wegmans. You fuel up. Wegmans was the spot to be, man. They got everything in the world there.
Yeah, I was petrified by the Wegmans when I went in. The only time I've been in. We also got Torchy's Tacos next to the Wegmans too. Have you eaten Torchy's?
Never had Torchy's.
Pretty good tacos. Dallas based or Houston based maybe. Okay, we'll get you out of here on this.
All right,
since we already talked cheese. Are there any first round bets still to be made? Non-parlay version. Are there any
no?
Because we talked about this a little bit, like there, or maybe before the show started. Like you can parlay all these guys. To me, 15 to 32, and maybe even like 12 to 32 is so wide open. They're just guys who are going to creep in, or maybe it's a top 10 bet. Like what on the board interests you that's still available? Like I think Jordan Davis top 10. I'm not sure what the number is. I know his under has come way down.
Top 10 right now for Jordan Davis at DraftKings is plus 400.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
4 to 1.
At this point, I might have more than 10 players with top 10 bets, which is concerning. Statistically there. I don't know if you
have 45 first round bets.
Yeah. Which, if you're getting plus odds, it actually is okay, but that's a different story. The thing to me that is most attractive right now is I think that the corners are being inappropriately priced. That's Kyler Gordon at plus 110 and Kaiir Elam at plus 125. I think that Andrew Booth, corner out of Clemson at minus 175, has a good chance to be a total round one faller. And he's a favorite to go round one at every book right now.
He gets out of the first round.
But he's out. He's had multiple sports hernia surgeries.
That's a problem.
Yeah, he has not played in the NFL yet. He's got multiple sports hernia surgeries. That's really worrisome. Even if Booth goes, but let's talk right now if he doesn't. the league has told you they like to draft corners at the end of round 1, right? Yes. We had Greg Newsome and Eric Stokes both make it in the 20s last year, 26 and 29. The year beforehand,
shortly afterwards too.
Yeah, the year before that, we had Damon Arnett at 19, which Raiders obviously, but then Noah Igbenogany at 30, Jeff Gladney at 31, right? In 2019, we had DeAndre Baker make it at 30, and then Byron Murphy was the first pick of the second round at 33. 2018, you had Jair Alexander at 18, you had Mike Hughes make it at 30. The league likes to take gambles on corners, especially athletes, at the end of the first round. That's a good position to go and try to snipe a guy. It's a good area for corners. We've heard a lot of Kyler Gordon round 1 buzz. He is still plus 110. To me, that is too cheap. Kyrie Elam has not had the same amount of buzz. I generally like him better as a prospect, and he's had some round 1 buzz. Plus 125 to me is incorrect. And so Kyler got hit to like minus 110 at some point, and then it's kind of fallen back a little bit, which is a bit of a moment for pause. But in general, if I'm assuming no Andrew Booth, which is what I'm basing this off of, you're going to tell me that Stingley and Sauce go top 5, Trent McDuffie goes 12 to the Vikings,
and there's just no more corners,
and then no corners go the next 20 picks. Yeah, right. That to me smells funky.
Right. By the way, while there's like 9 wide receivers taken.
Yeah, exactly. That just to me is not right. It's that cannot be. And so the fact that these guys are just kind of hanging around, and also worth noting that Dax Hill is a little bit of a hedge there because he's also like a little bit of a corner, but he's a slot guy. Kyler Gordon and Kaiir Elam press big outside man guys. So they play different roles. I like at least one of those guys, if not both, to sneak in the first round.
I love it. All right. Go listen to Ben Solak on multiple Ringer podcasts.
Ringer NFL show, Ringer NFL draft show, Ringer gambling show, Ringer NFL gambling draft show. Just all those words. And it's going to be there.
Can you search? Yeah. Does that work? Can you search Ben Solak in Spotify? I wonder if I can search Will Brinson in Spotify. How intriguing is that?
You might just get like episodes that I've been on because like then I'm in the title.
Huh, you can search me in Spotify. That's kind of cool. I don't know why I've been doing this for like 15 years and I'm like thrilled by being searchable in Spotify.
Yeah, it's mostly just episodes I've been a guest on. So yes. Soon this podcast will show up.
Oh, you're right. Oh, there you go. The Ringer, all the Ringer shows, you do great work. Y'all's draft show is very fun. It's like youthful hipstery.
Oh yeah. It's four.
I mean that in a complimentary way.
30s white guys. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We know our lane.
And like sometimes I'll be listening to it. And I'm like walking my dog. I'm like, wait, who is talking?
Yeah, they blend. They definitely blend a little bit. There's no way around it.
Which is fine. Ringer NFL show is great. Follow him on Twitter at Benjamin Solak. Read his work at theringer.com. You, as we mentioned, you guys, you and Steven, like, I feel like and everybody at the Ringer, Kevin Clark obviously is great too, but you guys do great work there and appreciate taking the time, buddy. This is, I could have done this for, another hour, but we have to go back.
I got to go do that actual show right now. So
we got to get back to the draft.
You don't get another hour. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. All right. Appreciate it, man.
Of course. Thanks, y'all.